You can never ignore a Bitcoin daily candle like that. Look at this. From a couple of days ago, Bitcoin up 14 to 15%. It's nice. It feels nice. And we all know that. It's a feeling. If you're watching these Bitcoin charts, these crypto charts every day, and most of us are, it is a feeling that you get when you see nice green candles on these crypto charts. But I want to just highlight that word, feeling, that attachment to emotion. And I want to probably deliver more of an unpopular opinion today as Bitcoin is moving. It's good. It is extremely important in the bottom formation story of crypto markets. What's happening here on the Bitcoin chart, every little move is good. But I want to kind of dig into the zoomed out charts and talk about why it's extremely important, I would say right now, to be very careful of green candles. And I think it's probably the most value that I could deliver right now in the midst of the market. So yes, it looks good, the daily candle on Bitcoin. It's a nice little move for Bitcoin. And we start zooming out though, and we start getting a little bit of a different story. We start getting this like snap back to reality. So zooming out, zooming out, zooming out, here we are. Now it's kind of like all of that emotion, all of that bullish feeling kind of dwindling, shrinking. And it's a reminder that, oh, wait, we're in a bear market. We're in a bear market formation. We're in this longer term trend of lower lows and lower highs, and it's been happening for a while. So those two pictures, the contrast there is so important to always keep our minds on. I have to. That's why I do technical analysis videos for cryptos. I do it for myself to constantly remind myself of actually the true narrative on the macro, because I'm a macro investor. I don't sit here trading these things all day, every day. I'm a macro-minded investor. So this is a nice move on Bitcoin, but if you zoom out, this is what's happening. So I want to talk about this. Why is this happening? I would say a good reason is right here. It's crypto once again following equity markets. This is S&P 500 index. We have to keep coming back to this chart because Bitcoin is really following this story. Crypto is following this story. So right now you can see S&P 500 is up a little bit, right? This is a daily chart on S&P 500. And then from the other day, a few days ago, you can just see it's up almost 5% or so. What's important to note is we're in this downtrend, right, for all markets. And in downtrends, we have these moving averages, and there's a few here. In blue is the 50-day, in green is the 20-day, and in red is the 200-day. Now, as a general rule of thumb, and this is at the simplest of levels, when we're in a downtrend, it's just assets just can't stay above those things. They tend to just stay below those things. They absolutely kind of come up and test these moving averages. You can see S&P 500 testing the 200-day moving average back here in August, but failing, right? And then the story continues in a downtrend. It's lower lows, lower highs, resistance, failed support at these moving averages. Now, in bull environments, it's the opposite. You can just see overextension from the 200 moving average, and then we just get these nice bounces of support off of the 50 or the 20-day moving averages over here, higher highs and higher lows. So it's on the left side in bullish markets, higher highs and higher lows, and it's on the right side, lower highs and lower lows. And until that shift happens, and until there's the reversal, we have to just know what the trend is. And right now, for equity markets that you see here, that trend is down. And over here on Bitcoin, on the daily chart, that trend is down. Now, it's nice to kind of get these nice little moves to the upside so that we can test these areas and start chopping in on turning the trend around. But right now, it's kind of like look at S&P 500, for instance. Right now, we have the CPI data coming out next week, right? We're at the end of the week now. We have the 20-day moving average right here. Is there going to be resistance for a lower high? Is next week going to be a red week? Because if it is, if we go to the Bitcoin chart now on the daily, next week could be a rough week for Bitcoin. So we have to just remember what's happening right now in these markets. We're totally, in my opinion, not out of the woods at all. And there's going to it's going to be some months, I think, before things start really cooling down. And I think there's still a very extreme likelihood that Bitcoin sees another leg down. And I want to prepare for that. So here's Bitcoin on the daily chart. We want to continue tracking on the daily what it does. It's nice to see it's above the 20-day, but it still has a long way to go. The 50-day sitting here around $22,000. And more notably, a 618 line in green here is a macro Fibonacci retracement that Bitcoin is within. And that 618 is right around $28,000 with a 200-day moving average just above it. So that's the macro part of the story. That's the bullish part of the story. It's all up here. And then it's over here on the weekly chart, and that's what I want to talk about. So here's that Fibonacci retracement. Now, in green, you can see Bitcoin is kind of just lingering within the Fibonacci retracement. This is what it looked like, a same Fibonacci indicator back here in the last bear market. We know, because this is what I've personally been tracking, the 786 line. In previous bear cycles, Bitcoin has capitulated below the line and then kind of formed its bear market. We have not even fallen below the 786 line yet. That's something I'm anticipating, and that could fall in line with the rough months that potentially lie ahead for equity markets. So there's a nice cushion there. It would be very commonplace for Bitcoin to fall below that area. Now, on this chart though, let's talk about, what is above Bitcoin. So we have the 200-week moving average right around $23,000. We have the 20-week moving average in green here, and that is right around $25,000 or so. And then we have the 618 here, right around $28,000. That entire area for Bitcoin is huge macro resistance. So we can't even really start forming or having a bullish conversation until Bitcoin is even breaking above those areas. And we're not even close to those areas yet. Notice on the daily chart, for instance, there's just a ton of shorter term resistance before we even get to those areas. So for me, I'm kind of just, again, I'm sitting back in the middle of this bear market. And you know what I'm doing? I feel like for me personally, and this is just my approach, just being in crypto for years, I'm focusing more on my mental approach here. And, I always talk about in bull markets, it's just like, if I did everything right previously to the bull market, I feel like I can sit back and I can kind of enjoy the gains. I have my plan of maybe taking some profits along the way, but I can just sit back and just enjoy the gains. In bear markets, it's a mental strength exercise. It really is. On these green days when everybody is kind of desperate for green candles and exiting the bear market, a lot of people, I think, are tempted and actually fall into the temptation to kind of just be like, here we go. We've been in this bear market for a good amount of time now. It's time to turn things around. Here we go, right? And I think that's a mentality that a lot of people fall into when we get these green days. And I'm not pessimistic at all. You all know me. I'm very optimistic, actually. But false bullishness is when you miss opportunity. And for me, that's why it's a mental thing. It's kind of like, be patient, follow the data. Green candles are nice. Let's watch how they play out. But right now, the data on the macro is, man, Bitcoin has a lot of resistance ahead. Bitcoin has a grueling journey ahead in the next few months, the rest of this year, with everything that's happening with rising interest rates and all of these news headlines that are coming out. And we continue to talk about those things, and how that affects equity markets will be how it affects crypto. And I just want to kind of reel in excitement with shorter term green candles just to remind people of that. And I know it's not popular. I know on days like this, a video like this is not going to be popular, but I really don't care. This is a really important lesson that I've learned over the years in crypto. This isn't financial advice. This is me simply sharing data that I think is valuable for myself. I think it could be valuable for you, and I'm tracking that. So back here on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, though, I want to note, we talked about these moving averages of resistance. Now, just to give a nice picture of really where bullishness kind of comes into play, if we look at that last bear market back here, 2018, kind of coming back into this Fibonacci, this green channel that you see here, and just breaking above, right? All of the moving averages and getting a nice move, a nice pop. That is a macro move of bullish confirmation. That is that first huge, giant leap for Bitcoin to prove on the macro charts that, hey, now we are putting in that reversal. the first steps of it. And it's a giant leap for Bitcoin to do that. Bitcoin has not even come close to a move like that. And you can see Bitcoin did that all the way back here in 2019. And if we actually go back and we go to the previous bear market before that, you can see Bitcoin putting in a move like that as well, coming out of the 2015 bear market low, right above the moving averages after they've all consolidated kind of very closely together. Bitcoin putting in a giant leap, a burst above the moving averages. That's the move on the macro before you're really going to, at least for me, hear me talking very bullish. I'm anticipating a leg down. Everybody knows that if you've been watching my content, but I'm not necessarily like sitting here bearish, right? We're in a bear market formation. We're in the bear market bottom. Nobody knows the bottom. You can't time it. And if you do, it's just 50-50. Right? It's throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping you get a bullseye. But it's kind of like right now, we're in the bear market formation. It's actually kind of bullish on the macro. But these short-term moves, I think we need to be very careful of. These are the areas that I'm watching on the macro. This is the move that I'm waiting for Bitcoin on the macro for that bullish move. But let's keep in mind everything going on in traditional markets. Let's keep in mind everything going on with the Fed and rising interest rates, because it's going to play a big part on these charts. And what lies ahead here for the rest of the year on this weekly chart, it seems like a small time frame here, but this is, a nice few months here on the weekly chart. What lies ahead here can be very volatile, and we want to be prepared. So we'll track bullish confirmation, breakouts to the upside on the macro, but we'll also anticipate downside. We have our targets. For me, the downside target is that $11,000 to $15,000 range. I think that's what I've identified as kind of that bear market's bottom. If I were to guess for Bitcoin, it would be extremely harmonious with previous bear markets if Bitcoin were to fall to that area. And I think the narrative with everything going on in the world right now, in the economy right now, leaves room for a move like that. For me personally, I'm mentally prepared for it. If we get that bullish break, I'll be happy. But this is what I'm watching. Wanted to do an update video as we do have this Bitcoin green candle, even on the weekly, right? 2 days, 7 hours left on this Bitcoin weekly candle. We'll track to see how it closes, where it closes, and if there's any strength in the close. So appreciate you. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and that like button. It means a lot to me for those YouTube algorithms. Have an awesome day. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.